Good evening and welcome back to episode 2 of Racing Clear. We survived week 1 in a way, we got through it. Matty's back for more. How have you been keeping, Matty?
Yeah, all well. Bit of a damp squib on the racing front last week, and I had two non-runners. And happy go lucky was just out of the placings after touching, I think 80 to 1. Yeah, he touched as well, just out of the placings in fifth. So bit of a damp squib on the punt in front, but yeah, not too bad on general. How were you?
Yeah, pretty similar now. Last weekend, I was watching Happy Go Lucky. I thought he was going to nick a place for a long time, but just got a little bit outpaced tap for toe, but ran very well. Um, yeah, a bit similar. Like the week before, I was after a couple of nice winners, and 2024 ended very badly for me in a punting front. I had a
Me too.
great 5 or 6 months of the year, and it just fizzled out. And to be honest, I was happy with the start of 2025. The first couple of weeks were good, but last week not so good. But hopefully this weekend, big weekend in store, and we can get back on a winning front.
Yeah, no, I was exactly the same. At the end of 2024 was an absolute car crash. Just one of them months where you just get everything wrong no matter what you do. Then started off 2025 all right. So hopefully it continues this weekend.
Yeah, I've actually found that a bit of a trend. The last 2 years now, I seem to have made most of the profit the first 5 6 months of the year, and I found the start of the jump season very difficult the last 2 years, and this year was no different. So hopefully the end of the jump season was good the last couple of years. So I'm waiting for it to kick off again.
Yeah, I think the issue with December is there's so much good racing over the festive period that you just want to get stuck into absolutely everything, don't you? And it's just naturally you overthink and you try too much and never more or less it goes screw up, doesn't it? So, but yeah, interesting week that just gone by, hasn't it? We have all the PRA stuff with the jumps trainers demanding a combined 500 grand for interviews. What was your thoughts on that, just briefly?
Yeah, I thought that was madness on any number of levels. From a business sense, like to me, for every trainer should be happy to get the promotion, the free promotion that is provided to him by an interview. There's also a duty of responsibility to the sport that they earn a living from. It's the equivalent of footballers doing interviews after games. There's so like we see it every day of the week, like sports personalities. It's kind of part of the job. Like it comes with it. It comes with the territory. I don't know where this came from. I thought it was very poorly produced by the organisation, and it just looks bad in the sport. What did you think?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like, I think with racing being such a closed off sport in general, the people looking outside in, we struggle to sometimes maybe not understand what's going on, but maybe feel involved a little bit. And to say that the trainers were going to decline interviews, whether they say half the time they don't say things that particularly interest us very much. It's all they call this will run well, or yeah, he's going well at home. It's like, but we still want to get their opinions of their own horse, their opinions of the game. I just thought it was a daft thing to come out and say. But as you say, I think it has been somewhat resolved now. I think they were going to have a protest, weren't they? And that's
Yeah.
not happened anymore. So yeah, I think that's died down for now, which is good to see.
Yeah, and like I was actually trying to think, and you touched on it there. I can remember Willie Mullins's get stuck in with Alaho. I can remember Lydia Hislop and Nikki Henderson in the ground.
Yeah.
After that, like, are you ever really, it's not like the biggest show in town, the actual interview. It's all about the racing. I think Johnny Deneen said in the podcast during the week that if they came out and said addressed, we'll say if you could really go at them with questions, then it would be worth paying them. But no trainer's going to stand there and the likes of um, Green or Guerrero after last weekend, which we're going to touch on in a second, and someone questioned him and say, was that horse given the best possible chance? They're not going to take those interviews, so I would pay to see that.
Yeah, you know what? You're spot on again, and that leads us nicely onto it, doesn't it? You say, like, at the end of the day, the owners are the ones who do pay the bills. And if you was an owner, would you really want your trainer on TV saying what's going to happen, or this is going to win, stuff like that? So I could go back to the Evan Williams one, the Owl of Athens. Like, He must have needed, so putting him for 80s into 85 to 20, 85 to 40, wasn't it? So you're telling me that he had no clue that was gonna dot up like that. But then again, if you're the owner, you're not going to say to Evan Williams, look, well, tell him how it is. We've held it back for this many runs, and we're going to let it off now. And that leads us nicely onto the Iroko and the Delta Worker non-triers debacle. Now, for me, there's a very fine line between not trying to win and cheating the game. I think you look at Sir Mark Prescott, does it all the time. Runs his 2-year-olds over 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs, steps them up for a handicap debut on Geldon with a 3-year-old, and they go on a roll. That for me, that's not cheating. That's because they are essentially trying to win trying to win that individual race. But Sir Matt Prescott knows that as a horse they are at that moment in time, they can't win the race. And you see quite often, like, I can't have the trainer of skates, but they used to run his horses around tracks of Bend, and then he won the Cambridgeshire, and did it again the following season because he knew that his horse was £10 better on a straight track. Again, for me, that's not cheating. You running your horse. The horse is trying to win, but the trainer knows that it's probably not the optimum conditions. And what doesn't sit right with me is drifters, horses that go back, the horses that are favourite, prominent in the market, then they get laid off the boards and then they fall at the back of TV. For me, that's what doesn't sit right. And then it's like it's a tricky sport, is this? And handicaps give racing the ability to almost bend the rules in some sense. It's all like going back to football, isn't it? Like you shouldn't do it, but at the end of the day, it's a little trick to get one up on your opponent as well. And it's like the sport is all about winning, and you'll do whatever you can to win. Whether it's this race, whether it's the next race, like you're going to play a little, and you've got to have to cheat the game sometimes. But I think there's a very fine line between not trying and cheating. I think the Iroko was just stone cold obvious. Whereas with Delta Work, like we all know that he doesn't stay that. We all know that he's not classy enough to win that race, and it's going to be the target is the cross country. So as a punter, well, you can't be too upset that it's not won or gone close because you should realistically know that he's not got the chance to win the race. If you follow me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I think there's a clear differentiation between those two examples last weekend. I didn't really see the outrage with Delta Work. Yeah, look, could he have finished closer? Possibly, yes. But he was never going to win that race. Now, if you follow farm, if you're a farm student, if you're betting on horses regularly, you probably should have known that that horse wasn't going to win, regardless of what his target was, because his age, so many factors against him. He wasn't an option. Like Iroko to me could have won the handicap chase. I thought it was on the line, over it, whatever you want to call it. Like I actually relate it back to a story here locally. I know you're not a big GA man, Matty, and probably a lot of our viewers aren't, but it was the equivalent of a game where there was a lot of outrage that two teams had nothing to play for. They were true, and both fielded understrength teams, essentially probably not trying to win that particular game, but paying customers, blissfully unaware, went to watch the game and saw two teams that didn't resemble both starting lineups on a regular week. Those people were understandably annoyed that they were after paying their hard-earned money to go in and see two teams that they didn't know even some of the players. So like, and to me, it's a little bit of a strange analogy, but the Iroko one, like, if you backed him, that didn't resemble the Iroko, or at least in that race itself, he wasn't
But
really the
I was
best
just
of his ability.
in the same sense, so like they've already played the hand by saying, well, the national the target. And we were both against him on the pod last week, saying, well, if the national the target, how's he going to win over 2 mile Fort Cheltenham? So I can see it from both sides. I mean, could he have got a lot closer with a horse of his ability? Absolutely. But when they've said that the national's already the target, well, it's just kind of it's obvious what they were trying to do that day, and it happens day in day out. And so you remember the petrol head case, the Roman McNally one?
Oh yes, yeah,
2 seasons
yeah.
ago, yeah. Similar to that, like he obviously Roman McNally got done for that, and was it the Jam Man as well? I think it was. And it's like he got done for that, and it's like how many times does that happen though? Like how many times do we see that occur to the big people in the sport?
He must feel aggrieved,
Yeah,
watching all these day in day out. He got a ban. And I know like there is a little bit of playing the game, like you've addressed as well. But like we kind of read between the lines that the national is the target, and maybe he wasn't going to be fully given lock, stock, and barrel for this race. But we're regular followers of the sport. I'm talking about the casual follower of the sport here now. Did he know that Iroko? He's probably like, oh, Iroko, he's a good horse. Casual follower. He won at Cheltenham a couple of years ago. I'm going to back him. Totally oblivious again, like our guys that were attending the game. Totally oblivious to the fact that Iroko wasn't at 100% for that race. And I think that's where the game gets a bad name. And you have people saying it's fixed and it's rigged and this, that, and the other. I just don't think it's good for the image of the sport. I'm not really sure entirely how we clean it up. Like, is it just something that we have to kind of put up with? But to me, it is a negative.
Yeah, and I think you've got that absolutely spot on. I mean, it's been happening for years. I don't think it'll get much better either. In truth.
Yeah. Right. Non-jiggers. I actually enjoyed that term, and non-jiggers. I thought that was a very good one. But I suppose it's time to get on with the rest of the show, Matty. Is it? So we'll move on. I had my kind of spake on Iroko in the column this week, but I did have a couple of other eye catchers. We're going to move on to two for the future. Matty, you've won a graded horse and a potential handicapper to follow.
Yes, the first one was Grandia Dam in the race at Cheltenham behind Moon d'Orange. Oh, first of all, what a ride from Sean Bone, by the way. Like, he's just humble. He's a different caliber, isn't he? At the moment, like most jockeys would have pulled that thing up three fences in, and then the fact that he persevered was unbelievable. But Grandia Dam, I thought from the front was an excellent effort. In a race that genuinely favoured those to the rear. 5 of the 6 of the prominent races were either pulled up or beaten her between 23 and 38 lengths. The first, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth all generally racing midfield or rear. And I just thought to kind of run from the front like that. And Ginny's Destiny, it was just behind Ginny's Destiny, fell out the back of the TV. And for that effort, I thought it was quite impressive. I know he's up to a career high mark now, but he's still probably got some wiggle room. Whether the target would be maybe the plate at the handicap play at the festival, possibly. I know he's on 139 now, but I think he's still okay from that mark. Or maybe the Greatwood Gold Cup. I know he was pulled up in that race a couple of seasons ago. But I think he looks a much better horse this time around. I think he gained 14 lengths with jumping according to the Race IQ data, which was really impressive. And I think he's going the right way. Now, the other one, the graded horse that was Meet Me by the Sea for what's he's called? The JP horse, Ben Paulin.
Yes,
and I think it was the only horse to win by making all at Doncaster. There was a strong headwind straight, and it just he still looked really green. Didn't look suited to being like front running without cover at all. Steadily run a fair. But I thought the way he quickened up, like it was so raw going into that last hurdle. I think he kind of had the wind coming into him and just all by himself and just like, what on earth am I doing here? And but the way he quickened up and just kind of gamed and fended off the second, quite impressive. And I think that attitude that you have in a horse like that, it's not something you can really train, and it's not something you really know when you're buying a horse either. But when you have it, it's exactly what you want in a horse. Strength of the form may be questionable, but the second did beat 6 Mile Bridge on debut, who of course beat Potter's Charm in the Classic trial last weekend. Don't think he'll make Cheltenham. I think he won't have enough time to get runs into him. Don't think it's a Supreme or a Turner's horse. So maybe one for entry. The top novices hurdle possibly might be a little bit out of his depth at the moment, or the 2 mile handicap, 2 mile 4 furlong handicap there. Katera won last time. I think Django Bay was second in it as a novice. So yeah, possibly one for definitely a graded horse in weight for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I have a couple as well this week. Yeah, my graded horse, and I've been both sides of this fence now, but Kawabunga is my graded horse to follow. I think he's going to be a Grade 1 winner before the end of the season. I was actually, I'll come to it later in the show, but I was going to put him up for the Turners this week on my weekly At the Races column. And then I had a look at the Christmas race, and I just thought maybe Copic the board will uphold that form, but I'll come to that in a while. But I thought this was a very cosy success. Now I thought he picked up William Money very, very easily. Cocktail Divin, obviously, who I mentioned last week, didn't run it. Like, Henrys are just not running well at the moment. They're not finishing out their races. But the the front two pulled a long way clear. I thought he was always getting there. I thought, I know Willie said in his afterwards that it looked like Mark was in trouble at the time. I never really thought that. I always thought he was comfortable, and he even kind of half missed the last and still picked him up under hands and heels. And like there was a little bit of daylight in it at the line as well. He's going to be a very nice horse now. I think he will go up and trip. I think he could finish up in the turners. Whether they'll want to take on the new line, that's obviously the same ownership, so not sure about that. But I think he is a graded winner, and I think he will be a graded novice winner before the end of the season. My handicapper then is a horse you mentioned last week. You were very keen on him, I know, Calico. And this is now, obviously, look, it seemed like he was trying, but this is a ride that was nearly too bad to be true. Like, I don't know, was he trying to do him the other way by just getting at him way too early? Like, on the turn in, he was being pushed along to close in third time lucky, and he was actually going well. There was no need to push him forward at that point, and they were at, like, third time lucky was after going hard. And as you say, everything was coming from off the pace at Doncaster, and third time lucky hit the front about a mile too soon. Or sorry, Calico hit the front about a mile too soon, and one by one they took over the lead, and they were passed by another one. It was literally just the last one to play their cards ended up winning the race. Petit Tonnerre, and like, he doesn't win very often, but the race just fell into his lap. I've long held the thought that Calico is a horse for the Red Rum at Aintree. He ran very well there against John Bon one day when he unseated or fell late on, but he was running a massive race. Flat track, I think that'll suit. I think the way the Red Rum is suit, it suits horses that are on the front end. I hope that they skip Cheltenham and go to Aintree. Like, he's only £3 higher now than when he beat Matata at Cheltenham in October. Not sure how he won that day based on what Matata has done since. Yeah, so did I. So maybe that's why he had a double penalty. But he's dropped £1 for this effort. I think there's a plan here. I think there's a long-term plan, and I think it's the Red Rum at Aintree. So I'll be keeping an eye out on Calico for that later in the season. Right, we're going to take a look at the anti-post markets. Did you have a play this week on anything anti-post?
I've not had a play, but I might before the DRF kicks off. James's Gate is entered for that final fifth run. Obviously, really impressive last time out, getting up, and it just looks a plan, doesn't it? Coral Cup, James's Gate. I was unsure whether they were going to get that fifth run into it. It's obviously not the most soundest of horses, but the connection seem to think that they've got him in good health now. And obviously, I can't imagine he'll be winning that race whatsoever. But if he finishes fifth, fourth, third, staying on, I think it's an absolute good thing for the Coral Cup. So I think he's around 8-1 for the race now, and I wouldn't mind backing that anti-post for sure.
Yeah, the owner has history with the race as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been very unlucky a couple of times. Yeah, I see the angle with that. James Gate obviously ran very well in a Cheltenham bumper as well. 3 years ago now, was it?
Yeah, it's a while back now, wasn't it? Was it behind Vasselberg, was it?
Behind Fastalvega and American Mike, yeah. Racing the worst part of the track as well.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be a really good horse to follow for novice hurdles the following season. But he missed full season, didn't he?
Yeah, they seem to. I think Willie Mullins said it just so hard to keep right. But whatever Martin Bressler's done, like he seems to have got him on a roll now. And
yeah,
I know. I think he was given an £8 rise, wasn't it? So I'd imagine the English handicap might put him on another 2. But I think he's still probably well handicapped on what we're seeing so far.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. Getting back to Cowabunga and Kopek the board. I put up Kopek the board this week on at the races. For the I was very, very much in between the two, but I thought Kopek the board had the potential to win this weekend and shorten, and I can have a saver on Cowabunga closer to the time if he goes that route. There's also the uncertainty with him, whereas I'm fairly sure Kopek de Board is going to go Turners. Townend will want to split him and Salvador Monday, assuming he wins this weekend, and they'll be his two leading rides for the novice hurdles. And Salvador is obviously only entered in the Supreme. I went back through my notes, and I like to make notes straight after a race because it's my initial impression. And I went back to Christmas and the Leopardstown meeting, and I had Cowabunga and Could he prove better than Kopek de Board in time? Question mark. And I went back and watched the race again before writing the piece on the turners, and I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Kopek de Board was value for it. Like his
Yeah,
jumping is
especially
terrible.
better.
Sorry?
Especially he can jump better as well. Because he's got the engine.
He's got a huge engine, and like they actually went very hard himself and the Gigginstown horse. The name escapes me now, but they went very hard for the first half mile of the race. They were actually threatening to kind of run away on each other and get really free. And they just steadied it down in time to give themselves a breather, but they were clocking 34, 35 mile an hour for the first 3 or 4 furlongs. And the fact that he jumped poorly on top of that and still had enough in reserve and still hit the line strong, again, not being asked every question, I think he's a really good horse. I think he's a huge engine, and I'd be disappointed if he doesn't win this weekend. And I know you like the new Lion, but I'm keen to take him on. I think the Irish are going to have something to challenge him at least anyway. I'd be disappointed if there isn't something here to challenge him. It's just picking the right one.
I was going to say, you mentioned that race. Normally, obviously, in Ireland, they go a bit of a crawl and sprint, but that race was flat out, wasn't it? It was a very good gallop from the start. And I think when you're looking for a novice, you're wanting to kind of see something that's already ran in a race, going to be similarly ran to Cheltenham in a sense. You know, whether you're banking on improving that it's got a turning foot or whatever, or proving that it can stay as well. But yeah, no, I thought that race and the way that Kopek de Board stayed on was very impressive.
Yeah, and I do like Willie's done it a few times now. He did it with Ballyburn last year, 2 miles up to 2.5 miles into festival. He did it with Sir Gerhard. And Sir Gerhard wasn't exactly very fluent over his hurdles as a novice as well. So I think if the engine is there, you maybe could possibly get away with it in a well, what was a Ballymore, what's now a Turner's. I don't think you get away with it in the Supreme because they just go lickety split. But I think his jumping will need to improve. It can't be as bad as it was the last day, but it has to improve. And a lot of Willies, first time out this season, they've jumped terribly, and I'm sure they've been working on that since. So yeah, he's my shout for the Turners. He was 10-1. I thought it was generous now, especially with his form being franked last weekend as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say I probably won't get stuck into the new line at the prices now, but he's got a good opponent in the new line.
Yeah, and like you've been singing that hymn sheet from when he was a price. I know you've been on about him, and absolutely, like it's that's brilliant value. But currently, as things stand now, I think he's a little bit short.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Because it wasn't the deepest. I know it wasn't the deepest of shallows either. So just the way he won that was just very impressive. But no, there's always something in my mind that's something going to come out of the Mullins woodwork, and I think it could be Kopek de Board, I think, or Cowabunga.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on if that's it from the anti-post side of things, and we'll get stuck into our deep dive. And we're looking at the Scottish Champion Chase handicap at Musselburgh on Saturday. We were actually looking at a few races from Sandown, and we were worried that the weather was going to get the better of it. But one of the reasons why I suggested this race was our old friend Saint Segal. So is it a simple case of Saint Segal in the end here, Matty?
Do you know what? After last time out, I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to enjoy watching him enjoy watching him race, because I can't mentally or physically do it to myself anymore. And I think that's a good lesson to learn as a young punter. Just stop doing it. Stop backing those ropes. Annoyingly enough, he's been backed in at second favourite. And I just wonder whether, because he won so well at Newbury, I wonder whether they'll go for the Great Wood Gold Cup, the race I mentioned earlier. Obviously over course and distance. But then again, going back, I've got my notes, going back right-handed, I think could be the key to him. I know that it was probably a poor race that he won at Newbury last time out, but that Bo Balco in second came out on improved in his RPRs, won third next time out. He's just so untrustworthy. We just don't know if he can reproduce that. I don't think he's backed up a win in a long time now, and the yard are quite out of form. So I am happy to take him on. Where do you stand with him?
Yeah, I've cut ties. I've cut ties. And he was. I saw part of the reason why I was sticking with him was because he just looked so well handicapped that he
Yeah,
had to win, and he eventually did last time. And I wasn't on him. I'm gonna I'm gonna admit it. Um, but I think now he's probably just fairly treated again. Whereas like, what did he won off 129 the last day? Like that was he was
yeah, he's
absolutely thrown
back
in.
up to 137 now. Like it's not particularly good placing if they're trying to get back down to mark, is it?
No, no. Like I know he was it 136 when he fell. I think it was 136. When he fell when he jumped the last in front at
Oh,
Ascot.
yeah, against Boot Hill, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I
So
was strongly on that day as well.
yes, me too. So yeah, he is still fairly treated off 137, but it just makes it a bit harder for him. Um, I didn't have too many in the short list for this. Now, first thing I noted when I looked at this race was the number of potential frontrunners in it. Um, I think there was 6 of the 12 declared have made the running or led at some point in one of their last 3 races at least. So there's going to be plenty of pace on. You're going to need to get the trip, I think. Um, and I was kind of looking maybe for something that could just sit off that if it does get into a pace duel up front. Had you a short list for this, Matty?
Yeah, well, there's only one that I've got a chance, and for that reason alone. So you've obviously got Kaluki Kid, impressive up and trip last time out, but I just don't think it was a very strong race, and it paid to be on the front end at Doncaster that day. I was there. Nothing came from, unlike the last day, nothing came from Rio Doncaster that day. The race fell apart as well. I think 3 fell, 2 or 3 out. I just wonder whether it was a bit of a dud race for him. For all he was going back up and trip, and he's still unexposed at this level. Minella Drama is the one I'm concerned about. 4 wins and a second in handicap chases, including the older one this season, well beating a Hitman. One from one over course and distance, which came off top weight. Very solid, runs his race in the month of February. But Donald McCain, 1 from 24 of late, a yard that's just kind of completely fallen off the cliff. And I just think, I know he's solid in these handicaps, but might be worth taking on. Corrigan Rock won this off £3 higher last year, but again, he's just completely off the boil, beating 24 lengths and pulling up over course and distance last time out. Both of those came off top weight, could bounce back, but you'd have to trust it quite a bit, wouldn't you? Fidelo Vallis, second in the race in 2023, off £1 higher, and a course and distance winner last January, off this mark. But again, similar to Corrigan Rock in the sense that he's just shown absolutely nothing this season. Like I know he's got the first time cheek piece on, but he'd have to improve drastically. The one that I'm quite keen on is Marble Sands. I think he's an absolute. I don't want to say good thing in here, but as you mentioned, the pace angle, like he's one that wants to just sit off a good pace and just pounce. Like I thought, I played him at Cheltenham for that reason, in the hope that the race would collapse for him, and it kind of did. But I also collapsed for Springwell Bay, which was so impressive. Like has that form tied with Django Bay, doesn't it? And which was a complete different animal. Put up £9, and they dropped Marble Sands £1 for that as well, which I thought was quite kind of the handicapper for once. My only concern that day was it might not have handled Cheltenham as well. And I went back and watched it, and I just when he jumped the two up the straight, he was just kind of legless. Didn't seem to gather his stride all that well. I know that he stayed on past Seddon, but I just think the hill at Cheltenham probably caught him out. And the angle with him is going back right-handed. Like 7 of his 8 wins have all come right-handed. Form figures of 2, 5, 4, 2 wins and second over the trip. The only two poor efforts came in the Challow at Newbury and the John Frankham at Newbury. So I just think going back right-handed, his career best RPR came here over course and distance and novice chase as well. And I mean, he ran that. Did he? I remember the rehearsal chase, the change in manner for a bamboo. Like nothing came. It was all the race favoured those of the 4, and then Marble Sands was kind of shuffled back, and then the only one to come back from the rear. So I just think he's running better races the last twice. He's acquitted himself very well, and returned to a right-handed track in a weaker race with a lot of pace on. I just think he's a very good bet in my opinion.
Yeah, we've had our first agreement of the night. I was wondering, you were checking him off, and I was like, is he going to mention him? Is he just not in his reckoning at all? Like maybe I've missed something here, but yeah, you've touched on it. You've made the point. He was the one I kind of warmed to. Like I Saint Segal, I had kind of ruled out just from a psychological point of view. The Kaluki kid, I thought was a little bit short, and I agree with you. I think this is a better race than the one he won. He was impressive last time. Um, he was an eye catcher the time before over 2 miles. Looked like he wanted to step up and trip, and did benefit from that last time. But I'm not sure about that form. That looks the weak enough contest. And I liked Marble Sands as well. I liked the run the last day, second to Springwell Bay. Agree, he wasn't in love with the track, but dropped a pound for that is, if you take out the winner, he's a good winner, and he's been dropped a pound. I thought it was very generous, and 2.5 miles, absolutely ideal for him. Good record at the distance, like you say. One off 141 here a year ago, so likes the track as well. Plenty to like about him. Yeah, I thought he was a fair bet now.
And the yard as well, 4 from 7 in handicaps here all the time. So I think they'll definitely be trying. I think it's one of them races where it's a specialist race, like the distance, the track, this way around. It's a specialist race. You kind of want to pick the ones that are likely to definitely be trying and definitely be suited to it. I think he's one of the only ones who's got probably the most decent form over this trip. And so yeah, I think we've got our first agreement, which is good.
That's good. That's good. Speaking of agreements and disagreements, we're going to move on to our next section, our yay or nay. Not so great last week, 1 from 3, and that was a short price one. So we're going to try and find. I get the sweats. I'll be honest, Matty, when you come up with these horses for this section, because I know that I'm going to have to oppose. I can't just agree with your 3 selections. They're normally a big price, and I keep saying I don't want to go against one now when it wins at 8-1 or 10-1. Give me your first selection anyway, Matty, and we'll tear it apart.
So my first selection is Solo I forgot what race it is now. Solo at Sandown, anyways. So the race that Connections have won 3 times in the past with another cap guard gelding in Dolos, and obviously in the Johnny De La Haye colours. And he's a funny old horse. I don't think they're quite. He's a bit tripless, and he's a classy horse, but they've just struggled to kind of get him right in his career. But it was very eye-catching last time out over 2 mile 3 at Ascot, and that was the same race that Dolos was eye-catching him before his last victory in this race too. And I just think the drop back to a minimum trip in a small field under an aggressive ride, that's the angle with him. Not a lot of pace on, I don't think, at all. And you look back to the last time he was ridden at a similar trip, it was in the Haldon Gold Cup a couple of years ago, beaten by Elixir de Nuts, giving him weight. Elixir de Nuts went on to beat John Bon next time out. So that proves that I know John Bon made an error at the last, and you can kind of weigh up your opinion whether he likes Cheltenham or not, but it proves that Solo's got the pace of match with horses with the pace of match with champion chasers. So I think this getting him back to this trip is the key, and it signalled like he wanted that drop and trip last time out as well. Good weight, good record, fresh. His course winner. I think all of his wins for Nichols have come off a break. And so I think Solo around. It was I put him up on the column 10-1 earlier. I think he's been backed in, but anything around 8-7-1, I think is a good bet.
Okay. When you mentioned Solo there first, now I was like, no.
I know he's almost in the Saint Segal of Rogue, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a horse that I've just never taken to. But I see the angle here. Now I'm concerned about the stable form. That would be a concern. And there's a couple of rivals in here. I do kind of like Etalon, but again, is he being targeted at something else, like we touched on earlier?
Yeah, I think they've said they might skip Cheltenham with Etalon, and I think maybe the Red Rum. Him and Calico probably might have ended the Red Rum, maybe.
Okay,
but he's got to win soon, that one, surely.
Yeah, I like your point. I like the angle here on the Holland Gold Cup when he had these kind of conditions, like you've kind of found where he can be seen to best effect, and you could be right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I like that. I like that case now. It's a race I hadn't really a very strong opinion on, and it's easy to be swayed then maybe, but yeah, I'm gonna go with that. We'll go with Solo. My first one is a bit shorter now, but I'm very keen on her for this weekend. Is Saint Lucy in the juvenile hurdle in the DRF on Saturday. Um, I really liked her debut. Now I thought it was star quality. Hard to know what she beat. Obviously, not very much, probably given the ease of the victory. But there's just something. You know, when you see a horse and they really take your eye out. Um, I love horses that finish their race well, go through the line. And I know someone on Twitter is always saying to me they hit the line, and he has a laughing face because I say it so often. But she really hit the line now in Punchestown on a day that horses were walking home. Um, there was nothing coming home quickly. I know the handicap hurdle winner was off a modest mark. I think it was a low 80. But she was 7 seconds quicker for the final 4 furlongs. Like, that's 30 odd lengths. That's just for the final 4 furlongs. She was quicker up to that point as well. And I know you'd be saying if she's going to be a triumph horse, but it was just effortless. And like they went steady early. She was a little bit keen. You know, she had plenty against her too. But I just loved the way she was. I think the stable have a line on Hello Neighbour through Lady Vega Allen. I think it's just from reading between the lines. I think Willie really likes her. You know, the line could be anything. I know he says that a lot, but he said that she was half cooked for Punchestown, and if that's her half cooked, I can't wait to see her out of the oven, because she really impressed me. Um, she was way quicker. I know they went hard in the race won by Ballyadam, but she was way quicker than him as well, closing sectionals, and it was all done on the bridle. She's in the category now for me that, you know, I don't have a limit on her, I don't have a ceiling on her, and I'm not sure where it is. And she would be a confident choice, but I'm waiting for you to. I know you like something else.
Yeah, it'd be very tentative, yeah, and that's only because of the way this race has panned out the last 2 years. I'd be in the camp of Lady de Vega. I just think in terms of the price, I think she's 4-1, whereas St. Lucy's 9-4. And I think Lady de Vega's maybe. We've already seen St. Lucy, obviously, but she was incredibly impressive. Obviously, by Great Pretender, by Lossy Mouse Sire as well, in the rich colours. And I think there is a bit of a twinkle in the eye of Willie Mullins. But I just wonder whether the Lady de Vega took them by surprise a little bit. I think she went off relatively on fancy. I think she was 10-1 for against Hello Neighbour, and that one just had the run of the race. Lady de Vega just came from the rear. I think the only one to fare well from off the pace, coming out of the fog. And also Cargese and Gallo Marceau, who both won this race the last couple of years, they were also second that race. That Lady de Vega was second in before going on to win this race. So I just think with Lady de Vega, I think if she improves and she comes on for that picture again, I talk about being half cooked. I don't think she was probably fully up for it going off that price as well. So I think if there's any that could just improve for that run, it might just be especially the way, and also Paul Townend as well. Like he's not chose the right one, is he, in the last two renewals of this race? And so I just wonder whether the price might be there for Lady de Vega.
Yeah, I can see it on the price grounds, definitely. And Townend, no, he would have had a couple of nightmares about there was a few races in the DRF that he's got wrong. I think it's very good for him because it makes sure that he's on the right one for Cheltenham. He's one that is certainly glad of this meeting, because it is Willie starts out his pecking order kind of this week, and we'll have a great idea of what are his leading hopes for particularly the novice races. But I think it'll be St. Lucy. Yeah, have you another selection for us?
Yes, next one was Florida Dreams in the Scottish Champion Hurdle. Scottish County Handicap Hurdle. Sorry. I think obviously Affordale's going to prove all the rage, isn't he? He's below the last mark. He's below the mark that he won the race last season. I think it's two or 3 pounds below now. But you have to trust. I mean, we talk about non-triers, aren't we? You just got to trust that this has been the plan for Affordale, because he's been so off the boil this season. Off the boil since winning the race last season, really. And with Follow the Dreams, he's one of two horses in there for the owner that's won the race the last three renewals. And I just think the majority of these horses tend to kind of ply the trade at a lower level. And when you look at Florida Dreams, like he's run with plenty of credit in the Class 1 and Class 2 affairs this season. Sent off 2-1 favourite at Aintree on Boxing Day. And I know we couldn't see much, but I just don't think he stayed 2 mile 4 for all the fourth at 12 authority has come out and franked the form. But prior to that, it was an excellent fifth in the Greatwood, behind the likes of Burdock Road, Be Aware, Dysart Enyos. And you think, could any of these in this race get close to the likes of those three? You know, Burdock Road's gone won the Christmas Hurdle. Be Aware's in prominent in the market for the Coral Cup. Dysart Enyos, although she didn't run well last time out, still a very good mare in her own right. And then Fiercely Proud as well, half length back in sixth that day, has come out and won the Group 3 Ladbrokes Handicap Hurdle at Ascot. And I just think he's above his last winning mark. He's only pound above his last winning mark, which was a 0-30 at Hexham season debut. But he gave £11 to the second day, and he's gone up for £12, 2 subsequent victories. The fourth has also come out and won well since. He's beaten 12 lengths on his only course start, which does temper enthusiasm slightly. But that came over 3 miles. Ottosini for the Crawfords won that race, and he just doesn't stay 3 miles, I don't think. Whether they're a bit in no man's land about him with his trip-wise, I know they tried the 2 mile 4, sent him off favourite. Tried the 3 miles. I just think he wants a good gallop at 2 miles, going back out this trip. He's a Group 2 bumper. He won the Group 2 bumper at Aintree a couple of years ago. So he's got plenty of pace about him. And I'd be very surprised this race hasn't been the plan for Connections, given they've won it 2 of the last 3 occasions. So it'd be Florida Dreams at around 5-1 for me.
Okay, I actually like another one in that race. I like Ballambar. He's been on my head now since he was third at Cheltenham 2 starts back, behind Reckless Eric. He really caught the eye that day in the novice handicap hurdle. Now he got a £4 rise for that, and I thought that might kind of do him, but again he kind of caught my eye the last day behind Al Nalam at Suddle. Now Al Nalam himself, I actually backed Al Nalam that day. I saw Ballambar coming, and I was like, oh, go back. But now he kind of didn't really look like getting there. But if you're on the horse in front, he probably did. But I thought he caught the eye again because Al Nalam kind of had the run of the race a little bit, and Ballambar came from a long way back. Nearest at the finish. I kind of like him for this race. I hope he gets a really, really strong gallop, and I could see him finishing best of all.
Would you not be slightly worried about the Harry Durham stable form? I think it's 1 from 33 in the last 2 weeks, I think it is.
Yeah, I am. I am a little bit. The only thing is, like, it's a couple of weeks. It's kind of a short term, and like he ran in early January, 4 weeks ago. It's not as I don't feel like it's as much of a concern if the horse has kind of run recently enough. Obviously not. You know, he hasn't ran the last 2 weeks, but it is a concern. Certainly is, but they weren't exactly.
That one. Sorry, just to cut in. Ballambar was behind Pick a Number last season, wasn't he? Who went on to win the Swinton at Haydock. I wonder whether they'll go for the Swinton with Ballambar as well at the end of the season.
Yeah, they could. I definitely think there's a race in him. I suppose that's my kind of angle with him. Like,
I catch you.
He's been progressive. Like, he won off 100 last April and won off 106, and he's come back this season. He was second off 113, third off 117, and second the last day off 121. He's progressing with each run, and I think a £1 rise for the last day is fair. Stable form is a bit of a concern, but it's a concern with the top 3 in the market here. So one of them could have a winner. I'd just be slightly favouring. I was kind of against Daffodil, to be honest. I was in between the other 2, Florida Dreams and Ballambar, but it's a very tentative Ballambar vote against Florida Dreams.
Sound like a nice reverse forecast on the day. We'll go with that.
Yeah. If we get that, we'll be all right. Yeah. So we're still stuck on Solo in agreement. What
was your next one?
Sorry, I'm after scuppering my notes a little
Oh,
bit
was it
here. Next
the
one.
Nathaniel Lacey? Was it? I think.
Yes, yeah. Another short enough one, but a bit similar to St. Lucie, really. Final Demand made a big impression on me at Limerick. I was kind of watching the form and I was like, that's not going to amount to much. And since then, like again, he was just so authoritative. You kind of think he's beaten nothing. It's the general kind of broad view we give when a horse wins really, really impressively. The second is since, now I know he was off a mark of 118, but he absolutely hosed up at Ayr. The third won a maiden at Punchestown. Now it mightn't have been the strongest of maidens, but he still won a maiden, and like he was beaten a long, long way. Slight concern that he was just inclined to go to his right at Limerick at a couple of hurdles. He was kind of, now whether that was diving towards there, I'm not sure, but it wasn't dramatic. But I'd just be worried at Leopardstown if he really is going right, that it would be a concern. But I actually initially when I looked at this race, I wanted to take him on. And I often think if you end up coming back onto that horse, it's a good sign because you've looked for something and it's not there. Um, I just went through the lineup and like Super Sunday just doesn't win very often, and I'm not really sure he's a grade one horse. I thought they were lining him up for a handicap. He was beaten a long way the last day by the Yellow Clay, and I'd be surprised if there isn't something here that is going to be at least close to the Yellow Clay or that kind of level. Sounds Victorious to me looks like he needs 4 miles and fences. He just looks so slow. Now maybe it was ground, but he just looks like it's hard to believe he was fourth in the bumper. But Jasmine DeVoe struggles with jumping. I know you were kind of mentioning wingmen, but again he was beaten a long way by the Yellow Clay the last day. Um, I just feel like there has to be something in here that's better than that level. And if there is, I think it's Final Demand. It was kind of process of elimination, and maybe he's a little bit short for that. But then you go back and you watch his run; he was very, very impressive. For like even probably that level is close enough to what the others have achieved in here. And I'd be shocked if that's the ceiling of his ability again, similar to St. Lucie. And I think he'll win. He's not going to pay for a weekend or anything like that, but I think he'll win.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, he's obviously mentioned obviously pulled 15 lengths clear of the subsequent winner. Now rated 122, third rated 123. So you can already assume that he's probably a 140s horse at least. Any of these in here probably not up to that mark whatsoever, and I think he's only going to improve. The only slight issue I'd have, as you mentioned it, is kind of when you're at Limerick's a front runner's track, isn't it? Really, kind of if you're leading and travelling well on the turn for home, you've almost got the race sewn up, and it's just a different test at Leopardstown, isn't it? Going the other way around, likely to face a lead competition for the lead, and I think Mullins is his last 5 winners of the Nathaniel Lacey all ran left-handed last time out. I think the only one to win the race after going right-handed last time out was an outlier about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago now. But I wouldn't let that put me off too much. Yeah, the Wingman, I just think he's slightly overpriced. I don't think he can win the race, but I think he just paid the price for racing up with the Yellow Clay the last day, didn't he? Just got outstayed in ground, probably deep enough. I know it is soft in the hurdles course at Leopardstown. Not a huge amount of rain forecast, so if it does dry up, I think Wingman will be the one who could just maybe sneak into the placings. Elliott's had I think he's had almost in the last 10 years he's had a horse fill the frame in the race. I think it is. You'd imagine him trying. He won't have enough time to get another race into him for the festival. So yeah, I'd agree with Final Demand for the win, and probably have a small each way on a Wingman too.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm happy with that. He can chase him home.
Yeah, with another forecast coming
in. That's 2 forecasts. We're going well. You've won a third and final selection? So I've gone with you with Solo. I've gone against you with Florida Dreams.
Well, I'll try and get on with this one. My last one is in Limbo. Ben Post and Tom Simmons in 125 at Sandown on Saturday. I just think stepping up in trip, it's just going to suit this horse massively. Son of Doyen, it mustn't have been easier to keep right it must have been easy to keep right at all. It was a 42,000 point buy from Rob James. Placing 2 points. One was behind Shanna Bob, and the other was behind subsequent Group 3 winner Gorgeous Tom. So he's got a bit of back class on his point form. He's ran over 2 miles since. I don't think the dog quite likes that shout. As I said, he ran over 2 miles since, and it was quite. I thought he stayed on quite nicely in a novice hurdle at Exeter for Chris Down on a yard debut. First 3 home rated 120, 127, and 121 now. And the third as well, particularly interesting line of form. He had beat 6 Mile Bridge previously on debut, who obviously we touched on earlier went to beat Potter's Charm. And then in limbo, went to the Newbury race. It generally throws up a decent type. Jericho Derepney won it last season. I know that it's not quite worked out since. And he was beaten 10 lengths in the third, but I just think he paid the price for going chasing the clear leader in Copley. The winner came from a quieter ride in midfield and Frank the form next time out as well with an RPI of 131. And on a line through the second as well, beaten 4 lengths by the Kemble Brewery the time before. And I just think, given that form kind of stacks up, just off a mark of 115, I just with Ben and French David taking £5 off, stepping up in trip, I think he's got a decent chance. I know it's a 0 to 125, but the top weight's rated 117. Doesn't look a particularly strong weight whatsoever. And given he's got probably arguably the best collateral form in the race, around 12 to 1, I think he's a decent price in here.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I didn't really have a strong opinion on this race, I'll be honest. And I had to go back and have another look, just for viewers. We kind of send the 3 horses, but we don't give any detail or anything like that, or whether we're going to be with them or against them, just to give the other person the heads up. And when I saw you attacking this race, I said, "Oh no, I'm going to have to go back and look at it again," because I thought it was very, very difficult. And I see the case now. You made a good case for him. I kind of liked Just Lucky Civil in here, but it was by no means a strong shout. He beat Tom Donovan a couple of starts back, and that horse kind of franked the form. He won a handicap off 112, and Just Lucky Civil runs in here off 112 as well. So I feel like he's feasibly treated, but he's got the issue, I suppose, of the Nichols Yard, and they're not really flying. Like, some of them are running okay, some of them aren't. They're not really finishing their races out well, but he was then stepped up to 3 miles at Ascot before Christmas in the 3 mile novice handicap, and I just don't think he got home. And he's back down to 2.5 miles now. He's kind of interesting. Prior to that, he had finished second to Prince Imperial over 2.5 miles as well, prior to beating Tom Donovan. And those two pulled a long way clear. So I feel like he's feasibly treated off 112, but no more than that. It's a very tentative nay, I think. But I'm looking back now, and I think we have our agreement, because didn't we agree earlier on Marble Sands?
Yes.
So I'm proposing that we make that our third selection.
Yep, I'll go with that, definitely. It's Marble Sands, Final Demand, and Solo, I think it was.
Solo, Final Demand, and Marble Sands. Yeah, I think there's a nice mix there. Yeah, and the 12 to 1 now is going to rock in about
yeah, I think the thing is with Sandown on Saturday, I think the hurdles course is currently the goal stick 3.5, I think it is. Obviously, they were debating whether to actually run the race on the hurdles course, weren't they? They had provisionally put an extra 3 chase runs in. So I just think it's going to be an absolute slog up stamina test. And I think in Limbo he's got some decent form on heavy ground. And I just think he might just be the one plugging away.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't really like betting on Sandown when it's that heavy, especially the hurdles course, because it is like they're walking. They are literally walking. And I just feel like it becomes a bit of a lottery. It's just what's gonna handle it, what's gonna act on it. And some horses absolutely hate it. Okay, so yay or nay, we've gone with Solo, Final Demand, and Marble Sands. We'll move on to our final segment, and we've probably touched on these at some point already. But Matty, your best bets, your nap next best, and your each way.
My nap is without doubt Marble Sands. I think if he gets that strong pace, strong gallop, which he should do, I think he's a good thing in here. My next best will be Lady de Vega for the aforementioned reasons. Just think she's one of the more likely ones to come on for that David run, and she's fairly priced. I think she'll easily turn the form over with Helen Neighbour. I think she just got the St Lucie to worry about. And my each way is a bit of a rogue one. Horse called Rushmount in the DRF 225 Leopardstown. Rushmount 66-1. Very unexposed. Only had 4 races on the rules. It was a next second to Lecky Watson on Hurdle's debut, and that one's now rated 143 over hurdles, and 152 over fences. Shannon Royale was back in third that day. He's now rated 140 in both spheres. And Rushman went one better next time out. Won closely at Thurles. Fended off one with form figures of 3-2-3-1 since, now rated 120. The 9 and the 9 length third got on to win now twice, now rated 129. I know that it was kind of, I just don't think heavy ground, being held up on that heavy ground, the Paddy Keogh. The Paddy Keogh was quite suited him, and he pulled up at Fairy House that day. And then, but he came back in that Perth to qualify at Leopardstown on the 28th. And he was just so eye-catching, like in rear. From what you could see anyways, not there to win, surely. Weakened later on from what I could see. But Michael O'Sullivan retains a ride, which is quite a confident one. And he was come on for that run from a layoff of 272 days. I just think it looks wildly overpriced, given that form, given he looks well handicapped in that early form. And so yeah, tricky race, big field at Leopardstown. But with 5 players on offer, generally 66-1, Rushmount will be the each way play.
Okay, good shout. My nap is St Lucie. Going against your next best there. I'd be hopeful that one of us will win it anyway. For the reasons I've mentioned earlier, look, I made the case for her. I think she's very good. I backed her for the triumph after she won at Punchestown. If she's going to keep that slight hope alive, I'm not sure now if she's going to be up to beating a couple of the English challengers for that contest, but I do think she'll be good enough to win here. My next best is Final Demand. Again, the cases I've made, decent. Farmers worked out fairly well, very impressive at Limerick. And my each way is going to be Ballambar, who I also touched on earlier. Slightly concerned about the yard form, yes, but I think he's a horse that is progressing with each run, rather. And I think a pound rise for his second to Alnalam could see him well treated. And I'm going to throw in one bonus one, because I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, Matty, about a buddy of mine who's similar to yourself. He's always looking for the big prices, and he was asking me during the week, what did I think the ground would be like at Leopardstown? I was like, he's asking for a reason. He's asking for a horse anyway. And he fancies Lucky Lyrene in the 3 mile handicap hurdle on the Saturday. For connections that are not are used to having winners at Leopardstown, they do like a winner here. Gordon Elliott trains him, and I saw today Jamie Codd has mentioned him and given him a good shout in his column. So he's 50-1. And I went back and I watched his race at Christmas. It was over 2.5 miles, and he was quite eye-catching. Finished kind of midfield, I think 8th or 9th, but he'll probably come forward from that. I think he'll like 3 miles. And if it's soft ground, which I think it will probably be, there's a little bit of rain as well between now and Saturday, so I think that'll hold. I think it'll be just it'll definitely be soft sided, good to soft anyway. So that was his shout, and I'm going to get him to come on the show if that wins next week. So that's it from myself and Matty. We've gone through kind of some topical issues, our punting as well, which is, I think it's always good to discuss where you're at, because you need to be honest as well. And we've had a little bit of counselling as well with Saint Segal before eventually coming up with our selections this week. Matty, thanks very much again for joining me on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope our viewers enjoyed it. And most importantly, I hope we've found a couple of winners.
Yeah, no, thanks once again. Honestly, always a pleasure. And yeah, let's hope it's let's hope FPO winners this weekend.